Welcome to Down to Dunk. I'm your host, Andrew Schlecht. We're part of the Athletic Podcast Network. With me today, as always, on Wednesday, is my good friend Alex Spears. Alex, what's up?
What's up, Andrew? How you doing? I was just looking at a calendar, Andrew. Did you know after today's show, we'll only have 6 more Wednesday pods until the start of the season?
That can't be true. That can't be true.
Only 6 more.
That sounds made up. Alex, before we get started, this podcast is brought to you by DirecTV Stream. Get your TV together with the best of live and on-demand. Learn more at directtv.com. Yeah, I mean, it's September today, and this month training camp starts for all NBA teams. Just a few weeks, and we'll be getting into it. I mean, it feels like we'll have some Ben Simmons news, in the coming weeks. Whether that be he's just going to sit out until they find a trade for him, or there's going to be a trade. So we have that coming down the pipeline. The Thunder have like very fringy things going on within the roster. I mean, like Gabriel Deck has a partial guarantee to his contract. I'm trying to get some clarity on that right now, and what's guaranteed. I don't know. I don't know how much it is. If it's, I don't know if it's a 800,000 guaranteed. Like, who cares? Like, just he can still go. But you'd think that if he was going to leave, we would already know that. And he wouldn't still be under contract, So I think there's obviously still a chance that Gabriel Deck is a Thunder player. So that's mildly interesting. How do you feel about that?
Well, it's so different because, like, if this was a Thunder team from a few years ago where, like, every single roster spot mattered.
Yeah.
Hank, will you relax, bud? Hank thinks I have food for him. I don't, bud. I don't. If it was a team from a few years ago, like, every roster spot matters, every contract matters. So this would have signaled something like very significant. Whereas in this case, like, they still could cut him and it wouldn't be that crazy. Like, the partial guarantee just isn't that huge of a deal for this current roster, or even that roster spot isn't that huge of a deal in comparison to teams of past. So I don't know. There was a very interesting thread by a random Chicago Bulls fan who was like reading the tea leaves and suggesting that the Bulls wanted to trade for Gabriel Deck because if you look at their roster, one of the reasons was that if you look at their roster, their power forward position is kind of like the last place where there's a room for someone because they traded Aminu, they traded Thad Young. They really just have Patrick Williams and I guess DeRozan. So who knows? I mean, maybe there is a team out there that would want, like, honestly, that would make more sense for Deck's future to play on a team like the Bulls than it does for him to play with the Oklahoma City Thunder this season. Yeah. But I just don't know if there's that interest out there.
Yeah, I don't know either. If I were an NBA team, I don't know how interested I would be if I were trying to win. Because I just don't know how within an offense, like, what does his role look like, on a successful team? As a defender, like, I get it. Like, he's tough. Like, he could be a ninth guy as a defender, but as an offensive player, I mean, I guess you can just. I mean, he likes to play bully ball, and he likes to move the ball. But I don't really have.
But that might work on a team like the Bulls, where their main center is a stretch threat. They've got Lonzo who can shoot. They got Levine who can shoot. Surround Deck with shooters and just put him in the post and let him go to work, Andrew.
Yeah, that's how it works. That's how it should go with Deck. So that thread, I actually retweeted it, and then I discovered within it that there's someone that has like zero credibility at all, like doing the reporting within that. So it fell apart pretty fast after I realized that.
Bad.
So it was a fun thread, honestly, and like, drawing all those lines, connecting all those dots was pretty. It was kind of a fun read, but Once I realized one of the people that was in there, I deleted the tweet, and that's all that should be said there. That's all should be said there. There's no credibility behind that. But yeah, I do think that if there is a team looking for I don't know, like your 10th guy.
You're trying to figure out what Deck is. If you're looking for I don't know, whatever Deck is.
I don't know. Kind of a cool guy that has cool tattoos.
A lot of fans. Good fan base.
Yeah.
Travels with him.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I think he could help somebody in like spot minutes here or there. But what does he do for this Thunder team? Was he 27? It's just kind of a weird fit overall because he's still probably like the Thunder's 9th guy too. And so if he's like, I don't know, I'd just rather have that spot for a development piece. And also, like, he doesn't speak any English at all.
Yeah, that must be tough.
So I can just imagine it would be tough on him, and perhaps he can still be a mentor to guys and like be just like a pro here. I don't know. I'm a little, and he also just takes up a roster spot. A lot of people are excited to see Vit Krejci play with the Thunder, which I'm not. I have zero clarity on whether he will be on the team or not. But if Deck is on the team and takes up a roster spot, it's less likely that he is.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to the original signing. I mean, we were confused by it at the time.
Mm-hmm.
It was. I mean, I remember pods from back then because that was when like Micic, we were starting to get excited about Micic. There's Gabriel Deck. We were creating this whole like fantasy world where Presti was building out like this all international team, and like Deck and Micic were two like key cornerstones of that. And then a few months later, it's just like, I don't really know what we were doing.
Yeah, they could both be gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, you could also write the story that it would be strange to go through the process that they went through, right? And
well, that's why
for them to just let him go.
Yeah, that's why that Bulls rumor is fun, because it's like, okay, if Presti knew that another team was going to go after Deck this summer, and he was just like, well, why don't I use my roster spot, bring him on, and then I'll have a trade chip when that team wants to, maybe I can get a second out of him or whatever. Mm-hmm. Like that would at least make some sense to me as like a short-term play, because otherwise I don't really get it. And I still don't get it. I won't get it if he's on this team in the season. But whatever. I mean, who cares? Yeah. Like, it's not that big of a deal.
It's not that big of a deal. Trade him to the Nuggets. He can play with Campazzo, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Literally anywhere other than Oklahoma City seems like a better fit for Gabriel Deck.
Let's see what kind of trade
you could name any team.
3.6 mil, pretty simple to move. Is there somebody on this roster?
And it's an easy contract because it's partially guaranteed every single year, so you can always get out of it whenever you want.
Yeah. Gosh, I wish they would just part with Bol. Just we'll give you a 2nd round pick and Deck for Bol.
Starting center, Bol.
Starting center, Bol. That would be super fun.
That would be, yeah.
And I'm quite confident it would not work, but it would be very
I don't
fun.
know. You could have Shea, Poku, Giddey, Bays, and Bol.
Who wouldn't want to, like, name one person in Oklahoma City that wouldn't want to see that?
There probably is a person out there.
There probably actually is. There's probably some Bol haters out there. I think Bol's a wing, actually, like not in a dissimilar mold to Poku. His handle's obviously like, I just don't think there's any way you could play Bol as a center, which is like, that's the problem, is like his foot speed isn't good enough to play on the wing, and he's not strong enough. Like, he was really fun. Like, I loved watching him in Summer League just because he's like, what is he? Like, what's going on here with this guy? He's giant. He can shoot, pass, dribble. He can do all these things. But then, like, how does that actually translate to the NBA? Like, the answer is probably not. But That's why you send him to the Thunder and you let him figure it out here, and you let Gabriel Deck go. Like Gabriel Deck could actually contribute to that Nuggets team in like small like pockets throughout the season, where I'm just not certain that Bol could.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. If they're relying on Bol in any way, even like 10 minutes a game, that seems like an issue for a team that has like championship aspirations.
Right. Yeah. So, anyways, Gabriel Deck still a member of the Thunder. For how long? Who knows? Could be forever, honestly. Maybe they just build around Deck. Maybe that's what you do.
That was a solid 10 minutes on Deck.
That's a solid too long on Gabriel Deck. Al, let's talk about NBA awards, and with that, we're going to go to BetMGM, who is a great sponsor for the Athletic, to talk about some odds.
Yeah. So they have all their odds up. We're gonna start doing over unders next week. But the over unders are there. I realized.
Yeah.
But you can bet on so many fun things. Even the Thunder's very first game. Did you know the Thunder's first game is already up there?
I saw
They
that,
are
actually.
11.5-point underdogs to the Utah Jazz on the road. How are you feeling about the first game, Andrew?
Oh, I think they're going to get trounced. That's how I feel.
You would remember last year's first game winner against the Hornets?
I do actually remember that. That was actually pretty fun.
It was fun.
The Shea game winner
but
was pretty fun.
11.5-point underdogs. That's how we're starting off the season. Okay, so first let's talk about conference winners. Maybe I told you I would share my screen so that the people on YouTube could see.
Yeah.
So see what we're seeing. Okay. Can you see that?
Yep.
It's not super big, but I can make it bigger. Okay, so the first ones up there are the conference winners.
Yep.
So obviously the Nets are the favorite in the East. The Lakers are the favorite in the West. Everyone on YouTube, you can see all the odds up there. If you like any of these odds, shout them out, talk about them. I don't see how any team other than the Nets or the Bucks could end up in first, and I don't even feel good about the Nets. But like I look at the Sixers and everything that's going on with them, like how could you feel confident about the Sixers before you know what they're getting back for Ben Simmons? And the longer this goes on, it feels like the less likely it's going to be that their team will get substantially better in a Ben Simmons trade. So then it's like, well, do you want to bet on the Heat? Like with Kyle Lowry? I'm not going to bet on the Hawks, Celtics. Like it really feels like it can only be the Bucks or Nets. I mean, do you have faith in any of these other Eastern Conference teams?
I think it's just going to be the Bucks. I think they'll be number one seed. I think that they'll be riding high off of winning the championship. I mean, they like sneakily added some pieces to that roster that make some sense. Like George Hill, I think will help them. Grayson Allen is helpful. And then like they added Rodney Hood too. Like what can Rodney Hood bring? Like, I don't know. If he can play, then like on any given night, Rodney Hood can give you 25. He's not going to do that every night, but he can on a night where like nobody else has it going. You throw Rodney Hood in there, he gives you 25, and you beat the Grizzlies on the road, kind of thing. And so I would.
Did you mention Grayson Allen?
I did mention Grayson Allen. Yeah, I actually like that for them. Yeah, and then DiVincenzo's coming back. So like they've got their depth is actually pretty nice. So, and I just expect them to roll through. The Nets, I don't it's all health dependent, and I don't think that they care about getting the number one seed. I'm with you on the Sixers. The Heat are similar to the Nets, where it's just like, let's just get to the playoffs. Let's just make sure we're healthy and get to the playoffs. As a guy who's been a Hawks hater for a while,
years,
it wouldn't shock me if they were the number one seed.
Man, that would be.
I wouldn't be shocked.
It wouldn't shock me, but
I wouldn't be shocked. In a similar mold to like the Suns being there.
Yeah.
last year at the top of the conference. I mean, they're just going to try to win games. And Trae Young was so good at during the playoffs and before he got hurt that I could see there being like another leap from Trae Young, and they get there. I don't believe in the Hawks as like a contender there. I don't think they could beat the Nets, Bucks, or Heat. Probably they already proved they can beat the Sixers. We'll have to see how they're constructed, but I wouldn't bet that the Hawks would get there. But if I'm looking for like a dark horse, I mean, that's probably who I'd pick, but I still think it's the Bucks, and then probably the Nets. Like the Nets, maybe they're not trying, but they'll get there anyways. So I still think it's probably those two. And then, I mean, I would probably say the Hawks are more likely to be the 5th seed, but weird things happen.
And then in the West, what I thought was so interesting in the West is that they have the Warriors as the second most likely to get the number 1 seed. So the Lakers are first at plus 170. The Warriors are second at plus 425. Which, by the way, that means like you need to bet $100 and you can win $425. Whereas like the Nets, which are negative 125, that means you have to bet $125 to win 100. So I was just surprised that the Warriors had the second best odds. I'm assuming that's just because they're kind of like a public team. People like Steph, they want to bet on the Warriors and the Clay narrative coming back and everything. But you look at that roster, at least as it stands now, how much they are going to be relying on rookies. Like I just, it's hard for me to imagine them being the number 1 seed.
Yeah, there's just so much that has to go right that we don't know about. You know, specifically with Clay. Like if Clay Thompson comes back at Christmas and he's in good shape, okay, like I can buy that. I could buy that they're second in the West. But betting that now, I think it would be foolish. Like I think that was just not a smart bet at all. There's a lot of other teams. I mean, the Jazz, the Nuggets. Like the Nuggets being as far down as they are, I know the no Jamal Murray. I get that, but like that's not horrible.
Yeah, well, one of the other big surprises for me is that the Clippers and the Jazz have the same odds, plus 750. Which like the Jazz were the number 1 seed last year.
Yeah.
And the Clippers lost Kawhi Leonard, and they have the exact same odds. Isn't that strange?
I don't get that at all. And the Jazz have, they shipped favors off. They brought in Rudy Gay. They've committed to a more modern style, of basketball with that. So I think the Jazz, honestly, I think the Jazz is probably the best bet because they're just built to win regular season games. They've got Mike Conley. Everybody's under contract. Everybody's tied in. There's no angst amongst that roster right now. So I don't understand that either. I think the Lakers are going to win a ton of games, given health, but also like that's a tough bet to make too. After the season they just had, that the Lakers are just going to be healthy. So like I like the Jazz there. Yeah, that would probably be my pick, actually, the Jazz or the Suns again. Like I can't go away from either one of those teams. They were 1 and 2 last year, and just as long as Chris Paul stays healthy, like there's no reason why the Jazz and Suns won't be there again.
And as people on YouTube can see, the Thunder, you can bet on them to win the Western Conference, plus 25,000, which means if you put $100 down, you can win $25,000. Andrew. That seems like a pretty good deal.
Or you can take that $100 and donate it to a charity of your choice.
Well,
and one thing will result in just this evil corporation making more money, or the other one will result in money going to somebody that needs it. So you decide.
State of winning team. I just thought this was kind of a dumb bet you can do. You can bet on the state of the team that will win the NBA championship. So California has the best odds because there you get the Lakers, you get the Warriors. Florida is
Kings.
Next.
Yeah.
I don't know why Florida is next. It's just because of the Heat.
The Heat.
Like I guess you get the Magic for free. They throw in the Magic for you. And then Texas.
Jalen Suggs is the best player ever. I mean, maybe.
And Texas is plus 2,500. Oh, New York is plus 220. So New York is actually number 2, which makes sense.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then
yeah.
any other state is plus 175. So you can take the field. You can basically take the field of all the other states that no one cares about. You get plus 175. Okay, let's move on to the regular season MVP. This
Mhm.
year, Luca is number 1, plus 400. I I think Steph Curry is an amazing bet at plus 900 because he was already being considered. So he has the 5th best odds for
Yeah.
MVP. He was already being considered last year when they
Mhm.
weren't even in the playoffs.
Yeah.
They were like fighting to make the playoffs, and there was that push towards the end of the year, like, ooh, should we be considering Steph? And he's at plus 900. We just saw what their odds were for like winning the Western Conference, second best according to these odds. I
Mhm.
just think that if you think that the Warriors are going to be good, like a top 4 seed, it's probably because Steph Curry is going to have another awesome season. And
Yeah.
so I would just like him over some of these other guys. So the top 5: Luka, Joel Embiid, Kevin Durant, Giannis, Steph Curry. And then after
Yeah.
that, you get into like Dame and LeBron. LeBron, honestly, LeBron's at plus 1,400. Another guy who last year, if he doesn't get hurt, possibly could have won MVP.
Could have won it. Yeah.
Now down to
Then
plus 400.
Jokic
Yeah,
even
last year's
worse. He
MVP.
just
There's no
won it.
way. There's no way. After all, they barely wanted to give it to him this year.
I know. I don't know that I would say there's no way. I mean, he stays healthy. If the Nuggets surprise, I wouldn't say there's no way. It seems
Well,
unlikely.
like if you
But
like what you said, because their odds for winning the West was like plus 1,100. Yeah, if they
yeah.
won the West
Yeah.
without Jamal Murray coming back till next spring,
Yeah.
which would probably require a lot. It'd probably require like Michael Porter Jr. getting significantly better among
Mhm.
other host of things. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's possible.
Which is not impossible. Like it's not impossible that MPJ shows up and he's an all-star. You know.
Are there any dark horses, let's say like plus 2,000 or above, that are interesting? Someone in Josh Smith in the YouTube chat says Tatum is interesting. Tatum is plus 2,500.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't see the Celtics being able to be that team, you know. I
Yeah,
mean, they
you either
have
have to have a really good team or you
yeah.
have to have just like mind blowing statistical season.
Yeah, I mean, James Harden at plus 2,500 is, I think it'd be hard. Like, he's got to battle lots of different narratives to get there. But like, what if James Harden's the best player in the Nets and they win like 68 games or something like that? You know, and he's carried
Yeah,
them.
I think that would make sense. Like I would rather bet James Harden over Kevin Durant just because of their difference in odds and because people were talking about him, when he first got there and he had like changed his game and everything. If he sustained that
Mm-hmm.
over the course of a whole season and you had that narrative, I could
Mm-hmm.
totally see James Harden winning it. It's funny
Yeah.
seeing just who gets odds because obviously
Mm-hmm.
not every player in the league gets odds. So Shea is
Right.
down here at plus 20,000, tied with Lonzo Ball. Lonzo Ball, same odds as Shea to get
Wow.
MVP next year. Doesn't
Wow.
seem very fair, Andrew. Ben Simmons.
I
Ooh,
don't like that
wouldn't
either.
that be a story, Andrew? Ben Simmons plus 20,000
MVP. There's
for
just some funny ones
someone.
where like, there's just some funny ones on here where it's like, why would you even bet that? Like Nick Vucevic. Like, who in the world is betting Vucevic to win the MVP? Like
You got to be a big Bulls fan.
that's crazy talk. What if the Suns won 65 games and Chris Paul was their best player again?
Well,
He's plus
Devin Booker would be
10,000.
their actual best player, but the media would just
The
fawn
media
over
would,
Chris Paul.
yeah. Well, what if Chris
Yeah.
Paul has another season like he did?
I mean, again, another guy from last year who was getting talked about in MVP conversation towards the end of the year and is now plus 10,000.
Plus 10,000. Zach LaVine has
Sure.
better odds. You know, he has the same
Yeah.
odds as Bam Adebayo, which is pretty wild to me. Okay, let's say that you had somebody just said, Alex, I'm going to give you $10,000 and you have to make a bet on somebody. Who would you
A
bet?
single bet?
Yeah.
I honestly would go with James Harden.
Oh, you would?
Yeah, I think so.
Wow.
I really like Steph, but James Harden plus 2,500.
Yeah.
He's going to be the one because if you look in the past, like Harden has been an Iron Man in this league.
Mm-hmm.
Last year was the first year where he was like having a lot of issues.
Mm-hmm.
So if he ends up playing a full season, because he could he'll just look at his past like games played. Like he could play 80 games this season. Likely would be the most out of those three with Kyrie and KD.
Yep.
And so I think if you think the Nets are going to steamroll the league this year, then Harden should be the choice, and he's at plus 2,500.
Yeah.
Okay,
I would pick Kevin.
KD plus 700.
Mm-hmm.
What about scoring champ? Now there is a minimum game eligibility that does apply to this.
Yeah.
Brad Beal is still number one, which I'm not saying last year was a fluke or anything. I mean, obviously Brad Beal's very good, but it's like, why is Brad Beal number one? Steph won it last year, and Steph isn't even number two. Steph is third on this list behind Luka. I much would rather go with Luka or Steph over Brad Beal.
I think it's a bet on Clay, right? It's a bet on Clay being there.
Yeah.
Because if Clay's there, Steph doesn't have to go bonkers every night.
He doesn't, but he still probably should, looking at the rest of their roster.
The roster is not that good. Yeah. I mean, the Beal one makes sense because now, like, Beal almost won it last year with Russell Westbrook on the team. And now it's Beal and just a bunch of role players, right? And
it is. So I think Dinwiddie's going to be just as much of a scorer as Russ was last year. I mean, Russ didn't have an incredible scoring season last year.
Yeah, he won't have the usage that Russ did, though.
He won't, but I mean, he scored his last full season. He scored over 20 points per game.
Mm-hmm. This is true. It's a tough one because the guys that like could or should be winning it, like two of them are on the same team, so that won't happen with Kevin and with James Harden, right?
Right. Yeah.
You know what's a good bet to win the scoring title?
I have one in mind.
Paul George at plus 5,000.
Ooh, Paul George. I didn't even think of that. Paul George plus 5,000.
If the Clippers are going to be good, it's because Paul George is good. And that he's not even good, great. It's because he's great. And Paul George has that in him. I mean, he was third in the MVP voting once upon a time.
That's true. That's a great point.
So, and he's going to be like, who else scores on the Clippers? Marcus Morris, Reggie Jackson.
Is that really the number two? Who is going to be the second leading scorer on the Clippers? There has to be someone else.
I mean, who else would it be?
Oh my God. I can't think of one other person who would be.
I mean,
Bledsoe?
No.
Honestly, it might be Bledsoe. Bledsoe might end up being their second leading scorer at like 16 points a game. Who else is it going to be?
I just cannot believe that could be true. That's what I said, Marcus Morris.
Or it's Reggie. Not going to be Marcus Morris.
It might be.
I don't know.
Marcus Morris can take on more of a scoring load than he has had to with the Clippers.
I like that Paul George idea though. He'll definitely be the leading scorer in his team, which is needed for the scoring champ.
I mean, Paul George is going to have to do a ton.
He has worse odds than Colin Sexton.
Yeah, that's foolish.
Foolish.
Straight up foolish. Who's betting Colin Sexton to win the scoring title? That's crazy.
I don't know.
That is nuts, especially on the roster. Like you'd have to have the perfect situation, like similar to a Westbrook, after Durant, leaves situation with Colin Sexton, and they don't have that. Like he's not even guaranteed to be the guy that takes the most shots on the team. It's like, why would you bet him to win the scoring title? I mean, that's nuts. Also, like Trae Young, not a bad one, right?
Yeah, we have a few people in the chat who like Trae Young plus 2,500.
Yeah, I like that as well.
Shea down at plus 10,000.
Yeah, if he plays the whole season, he won't win it. but he'll score a lot.
You really sold that. If he plays the whole season, he won't win it.
I was actually starting to go in a direction. I was like, nope. That's wrong.
You just made a U-turn. Okay, let's move on. We'll go through some of these a little bit quicker, but most 3-pointers per game. I just thought this was interesting because it's one of those things that you think like, oh, this must be like a pretty close race. Like, is it really that much of a difference? Because this is most 3-pointers per game. So we're just talking about an average. But you look at last year, Steph is at, I think, 5.1 and Lillard, or 5.3, and Lillard's down at like 4. So there's a full 3-point per game gap, which is what you see in the odds. Steph Curry is minus 175. Dame Lillard is plus 400. Buddy Hield was right around 4 last year as well at plus 600. I think Hield would be the choice because if you think there's any chance he gets traded to the Sixers, maybe just being in that system, all they really would want him to do is shoot, because there's more ball handlers on Sacramento Kings right now. So I could imagine a scenario where Buddy Hield makes 5 threes per game. It wouldn't be unbelievable.
Yeah. That's not a bad bet. Hield is, I think he's like criminally underrated in the league as far as like a shooter goes. Like a lot of people don't think of him right off the bat, right?
He's like historically great.
Yeah.
It's like Steph, Clay, and then Buddy Hield is probably third on that list.
Yeah.
Which is wild to think about.
Yeah, it's wild. And I mean, Buddy Hield thought he was going to be a Laker. Like, not only did everybody else think he was going to be a Laker, like he thought that too. So it's crazy and then it was like, well, maybe he still could be, and then like now, like he's just a king again. And there's just like some weird attitude stuff with Buddy, but I do like I love the fit in Philadelphia with him. Like, I don't know what the trade would be. We talked about on Monday with Michele about Ben for De'Aaron Fox. But if you're Sacramento, you'd rather do like Buddy and Tyrese Halliburton for Ben and Tyrese Maxey. Like, would you rather do that? What would you rather do if you're Kings?
I don't know. I don't love the fit of Fox and Ben.
Yeah, I don't love that either.
It's not the worst thing in the world. Obviously, they're both really talented, but I love the idea of Ben with Tyrese Halliburton.
Yeah.
So, like, if I were the Kings, I would be doing everything to make that my backcourt pairing. Yeah. And then you still have Davion Mitchell. And then you could play Davion, Tyrese, and you're not even like worrying about this like 3-guard lineup thing because now Ben is so big it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I would prefer to give up Fox in a deal, and maybe you get something back. I don't know. People were it was interesting listening to you and Mike. I think that's a really interesting trade. I think that Ben Simmons, like in April, had more value than De'Aaron Fox, and I just don't know if that's the case anymore. I don't know. Either. I saw somebody on Twitter. It was a Kings fan who was like mad that that Fox was being ranked below SGA on some like guard list or whatever. Yeah. And of course my reaction immediately was like, oh, well, you're an idiot. You haven't watched Shea. He's so amazing. To be fair, though, I went and looked up De'Aaron Fox's stats for last year. They were pretty impressive. I didn't realize how good he was last year, at least just in terms of like counting stats. He's obviously not the shooter that Shea is, but he did have a pretty nice season, Andrew.
Yeah, he's good, and I think getting him out of Sacramento would be a positive thing, especially getting to a place like Philly. I think that would. I'm
scrolling through some more of these to get some interesting ones. You can bet on like most rebounds per game, most assists per game. Defensive Player of the Year is really interesting to me because Rudy Gobert has won it 3 times in a row now.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt like there was a shift that happened, both from the playoff, mainly because of the playoffs, whereas like, oh, he's never winning Defensive Player of the Year again. And we've seen in the past where voters have been reluctant to usually give guys an award 3 times in a row, and he's already gotten that. But if he didn't win, who would it be? Because Ben Simmons is tied with him for the best odds at plus 350. And of course, we have no idea where Ben Simmons is going to be. Miles Turner is next at plus 650, which I just think is crazy because why would Joel Embiid not be third on that list? Especially if you think that Ben Simmons is going to get traded. Now you don't have this question of, well, they have 2 guys on their team. They're going to split votes or whatever. Like if Joel Embiid is on the Sixers without Ben Simmons and they are good at all and they still have a decent, well, they need to have more than a decent, as long as they have a good defense.
Yeah.
Like it seems like Embiid would be the obvious choice here, and he's plus 1,000.
Yeah. I mean, maybe you think Rick Carlisle is going to matter that much,
Yeah.
in Indy and change all that.
Change the world.
I also like the Lakers were the number 1 defense last year by a mile. So Anthony Davis, that's a great bet. Plus
so Anthony Davis is 5th at plus 1,000 as well. Yeah. Also at plus 1,000 is Giannis.
There's some good bets there. Like I don't understand why you would bet Ben Simmons or Miles Turner at those odds.
Or Rudy Gobert, to be honest.
Sure.
It's just not fun. It's not fun to do. No. It's not a fun way to spend your money, Andrew.
No.
Putting money on Rudy Gobert, hoping that he's going to get enough, like, his the little stats he does that no one else notices. Draymond Green plus 2,000 if you believe in the Warriors coming back. That seems like an obvious one. Lou Dort down at plus 5,000.
Yep.
Lou Dort plus 5,000.
No way. Unfortunately, you can't win Depoy and be on a team that wins 20 games. That's just not a thing. What about Kevin Durant at 8,000 plus 8,000? Like that's kind of interesting, right?
What are the chances that they have a top 15 defense?
I don't know. Probably not good. And Kevin was like part of the reason why they didn't have a good defense in the regular season last year too. But I don't know. He looked great in the Olympics. And so I just wonder I just think that he could have, like Kevin could have a season where it's like, oh, okay. Like he is like actually the best player in the NBA on both ends. I think that's not impossible.
If that happens, then I think the move is to give him the MVP over the Defensive Player of the Year.
Well, I mean, they gave both to Giannis. This is like my only argument,
Yeah. If the Nets are a top 10 defense, they're going to be one of the greatest teams of all time.
Which is possible. Like that, like looking at the roster, what they've compiled. I mean, it's certainly possible.
Hey, you could do you're talking about MVP Depoy combo. You already mentioned Paul George. Why not go with Paul George here too? Plus 4,000. He could win them both.
Paul probably has he probably has a better chance of winning Depoy than he does MVP.
This will be interesting to Thunder fans. Rookie of the Year. Yeah. Now, look how far Josh Giddey is down here. So we have Cade Cunningham plus 250, Jalen Green plus 300. Then we have Suggs, Mobley, Barnes, Alperen Şengün at 6 plus 1,400. Still haven't gotten to Giddey, and it's going to be a while. Davion Mitchell's next. James Bouknight, Jonathan Kuminga finally at 10th plus 3,000. Josh Giddey.
Same as my guy Jalen Johnson plus 3,000.
My guy. Since when has Jalen Johnson been your guy?
That's just a joke. I just don't like him at all.
Just wanted to make sure you weren't trying to like sneak in a new love of Jalen Johnson.
No. I've never liked him. Okay. He had a great summer league, but whatever. Yeah. I mean, honestly, the Giddey bet. I don't think Giddey will win Rookie of the Year, but it's not a bad bet at plus 3,000.
It has more logic than some of these other ones.
Like Bouknight, I just don't know where Bouknight plays on that team. He has to be so good for him to play, and I just don't think he's ready yet. Like that's a wild one. Even Şengün at 1,400, like that's wild as well. And then Evan Mobley, like the way that the Cavs have structured their team, you think like he's got to be like one of the best players in the NBA to like bust through all that and to be the best rookie in this class next year.
It's so funny that you can bet on Luca Garza plus 15,000 if you wanted to. Also, who is Jay Landale? Who is that? At plus 12,500.
Yeah, where did he land? He's undrafted.
What? How did he get on this list?
Hero player. I don't know.
This isn't like every player in. This isn't every player that was drafted, and somehow Jay Landale made it on this list.
Yeah, it's a weird one. There's like, there's like barely 30 players on here, like 32 players on here or something.
And he made it. He made the cut.
Yeah.
Usman Garuba made the cut. Can you imagine what would need to happen for Usman Garuba to win Rookie of the Year?
There's
beat
no
out
chance.
Jalen Green and Şengün?
There's absolutely no chance. Trey Mann also plus 4,000 to win Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
Same as Sharif Cooper, who went late in the second round, and same as Moses Moody, which is pretty. And Ayodasumo. Why is Ayodasumo so high up on this list? That's weird. That's honestly, straight weird.
If I was going to pick a dark horse,
I
would pick Chris Duarte plus 3,500, because you could imagine a scenario where he just fits right into the Indiana Pacers and just looks functional. And if there's an injury to one of the top guys or something, like we had with Malcolm Brogdon when he won.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the Rookie of the Year is all about production, just like straight production. Oh yeah, Frank Turman says Landale's playing for the Spurs. He's an Aussie. Yeah.
Oh,
thank you.
Oh.
I mean, if you're, I'll ask you the same question. Somebody gives you $10,000, and you have to bet. You have to bet on one Rookie of the Year. Who is it?
So it would definitely be one of the top three.
Okay.
Mobley isn't going to put up the stats in his rookie season.
Yeah, neither is Scotty Barnes.
No,
like that's another weird one being so high.
It's Cunningham, Green, or Suggs, and I think I might I think I'll go with Green. I really want to go with Suggs.
Yeah,
and I think he could do it, but I just don't know. Like if Markelle Fultz comes back and is playing, and you have RJ Hampton, I don't know. There's just a lot of young guys. Where on Houston, it seems like the focus is on Jalen Green. Like he's going to get to do what he wants.
Yeah, I think that's probably right.
And Cade, he defers too much, Andrew. We saw it.
But
we saw it in the summer league.
Yeah, but I could see it being like the smart guy. He's impacted the team. Like, sure, Jalen Green's scoring 3 more points per game than Cade Cunningham, but the way that Cade Cunningham has impacted the culture of the Detroit Pistons, it's a new era. That would
be so funny. That'll be the Rockets fans' like next thing, like fighting for Jalen Green to win Rookie of the Year, and all the smart guys are saying, no, it's actually Cade Cunningham.
And also Jalen Suggs. Look at the way that he is changing the culture of his team too. Because like Jalen Green doesn't like profile as that kind of guy. Like he profiles as a guy that's like, I'm gonna go get mine.
Right.
Cunningham and Jalen Suggs are both. I think they will both put up a ton of stats because their teams stink. And there is a chance that we do hear stuff about, hey, like they're really doing some stuff with regards to culture and regards to like helping their teammates become better. Like if Jalen Suggs helps some of these, Magic guys that haven't been able to make it yet get better, that would be significant for him and like an argument for Rookie of the Year too.
Well, and if you look at those top 3, Cunningham, Green, Suggs, if one of those teams was to have a surprisingly good year, wouldn't you bet on the Pistons? Like I'm talking about like winning like 35 games.
Yeah.
Of those teams, I would probably pick the Pistons. And if that happens, if the Magic and the Rockets are down in the doldrums with the Thunder, and the Pistons are like, ooh, maybe they can make a run here and get into the play-in, then I think it's Cade's.
Yeah, I think that's right. And Giddey is not a bad bet just because like Josh Giddey is going to play a ton. He's going to play a ton for the Thunder. I don't know if the production will be there, but if he like blows up and he's, I think I wrote with Zach Harper last week about, can Poku be the second best player on the Thunder this year? Like, I still would probably side with Dort. Like Dort's probably like the safest play. But Josh Giddey's not like the worst guess for that question. Like especially the fact that they just drafted him 6th, they're going to give him opportunities. They're going to see what he looks like. They're going to put the ball in his hands. And let's say the shot comes along a little bit faster than we think. Like if Josh Giddey was at like 16, 4 and 4 or something like that, like that'd have you in the discussion.
Next, 6th man of the year. This one will be quick. I just thought it was fun, the names that they pick for the top 5, because obviously 6th man every year is just kind of like a random guy. Last year it was Jordan Clarkson, who is still the favorite this year, plus 550.
Mm-hmm.
But then you got Kevin Herter, Joe
He's a favorite
Ingles,
by a lot, by the way.
Who, Clarkson?
Yeah.
He is, but at the same time, like plus 550, like bet 100 to win $550. That's pretty nice.
It's still good, yeah.
Kevin Herter, Joe Ingles, Patty Mills coming in 4th, Tyrese Halliburton coming in 5th. Now, I don't know.
Are we sure he's not starting?
Yeah, I would imagine he will be starting, but who knows? Yeah. Then you got like Dragic, Kobe White, Derrick Rose, Terrence Ross, Bobby Portis, Kendrick Nunn. I mean, obviously it's a 6-man, so it's going to be just random guys.
Yeah.
Is there anyone on this list though? Because it does feel like we have escaped the era of like Lou Williams and Jamal Crawford winning every single year.
Mm-hmm.
But Jordan Clarkson did still kind of fit into that exact same role, which is like the microwave scorer off the bench.
Yeah.
So is he just the new 6-man guy who's going to win every year?
I think he kind of is. Does anybody else inspire you on this list?
I mean, Campaign is fun at plus 2,000, but he's probably not going to.
He didn't score enough.
Yeah, he's not going to score enough. Tyler Hero at plus 2,000.
Yeah, that's mildly interesting, right?
That's kind of interesting. He had a sophomore slump, but we've seen guys have sophomore slumps and then bounce back. I remember when Jason Tatum, he had put up like the same stats his second year as he did his rookie year. Everyone was down on him a little bit, then he came back and was awesome. That you could talk yourself into Tyler Hero.
You can bet Kenyon Martin Jr.
You can. Ooh, how about this? Terrence Mann for the Clippers plus 3,000.
I don't hate that.
We know he's gonna get playing time this year. Kind of like that.
Yeah, I like that.
Who does your son like? Oh, your son is shouting out Grayson Allen. Oh wow, Grayson Allen.
He loves Grayson Allen.
He loves 6,600. DeMarcus Cousins. You can bet on DeMarcus Cousins plus 8,000.
Not even on a team.
Wow. Yeah, some interesting names on here. Okay, this is the one I was most interested in because of who was number 1, which is Most Improved Player Award. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is number 1. Now, it's plus 700. So they're acknowledging that like we don't know whatever is going to happen with Most Improved Player. But it's just interesting that they picked Shai as the number 1 choice. He's tied with Zion for number 1, plus 700. I just think it's a strange, and we have had guys who were on bad teams win this award. Kevin Love won it. I went back 2010, 2011. He won when he was on the Timberwolves, and they won 17 games. So that's not really a concern. Also, like Brandon Ingram won a couple years ago with the Pelicans. They won like 30 games. So it's not that. It's just that when you look at those two guys who are on bad teams, they had such massive jumps from year to year in their stats. So Brandon Ingram went from 18 points a game to almost 24 points a game, 0.8 threes per game at 33% to 6.2 threes per game at 39%. Like just a massive jump. And the same thing happened with Kevin Love. That was the year I think Kevin Love started shooting threes and just became like a completely different player in Minnesota. With Shai, you look at his stat line last year, it's like, what could he possibly do to have a big enough jump over what he did last year for people to give him this award?
Yeah, that's the whole problem with this, is that people don't realize the jump that he made last year.
Yeah, this feels like they're trying to make up for the fact that he wasn't like talked about last year.
Yeah. I mean, let's say that like last season he was 19, 5 and 3 on 47, 34, 80. And then this season he jumped to almost 24, 5, and 6, shooting 50, 41, 80. Then you could be like, oh, wow, what a huge improvement. But what does he got to do from 23, 5, and 6, 50, 40, 80? Like, what does he got to do? Maybe the jump is from 23 to 27, right?
Well, we talked about him earlier as like dark horse candidate for scoring champ. Like that would be it would have to be that type of a season where he's like being talked about at the end of the season. Like, could Shea do this? He's averaging 29 points per game. Which, to be fair, like that would be a massive jump, and we would be talking about Shea even more. So yes, I guess could happen. But you look at some of these other guys. They're just I feel like there's so many other good options. Like Michael Porter Jr. is third at plus 750. Jaren Jackson Jr. is plus 1600. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but if it's going to happen, it's going to happen this year because he's going to get played based on what they did with Valanciunas and moving some pieces around. Like I don't think they're going to necessarily be prioritizing Steven Adams over Jaren Jackson Jr.'s development. And then I really like Darius Garland at plus 2,000, which is probably my favorite on this list.
I like that a lot better. I mean, you just look at this statistical improvement from Siakam when he won it. He went from 7 points per game to 16.
Yeah, you have to do something crazy.
And his shooting splits went from he was 22% from 3 when he was scoring 7 up to 36. I mean, that's the kind of stuff you have to do. I mean, he improved in every way, shooting, passing, everything.
And that's why even someone that I like a lot, OG Anunoby, actually, you know what? He still is a good choice because he only averaged 15.9 points per game last year, and he is way down here at plus 6,600.
His case is similar though to Shea's in that like he made the jump last year.
Well, he would have to become like a 23 point per game scorer. That would be the jump for Anunoby.
That's a big ask.
Hey, look who's down here at the bottom. Lou Dort plus 8,000.
Also a tough bet to make.
Any of these other names that jump out at you that you're a fan of? Kuzma. You want to bet on Kuz?
I'm out on Kuz.
Out on Kuz.
No way on Kuz. Darius Baisley plus 6,600.
Oh, I didn't even see him.
Yeah.
Where is he?
Same as Tyler Hero. Same as THT.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't bet on that.
You just did another U-turn.
I definitely did. Halliburton at plus 2,000. Like that's not bad. Like he could jump.
I'm interested in Halliburton, like how he develops as a scorer specifically.
Yeah,
because it does feel
Chris
like
Boucher. We haven't mentioned his name, but Chris Boucher has been like on almost every single list, and he's there again.
Yeah, why is he at plus 1,800 and OG Anunoby's down at plus 6,600?
I don't know what's going on there. Maybe they got to be hearing some stuff from the Toronto camp about Chris Boucher's like muscle watch or something.
Let me see if I have any more. Oh, Coach of the Year. I have Coach of the Year. Look, Mark Daigneault down at plus 6,600. Spoelstra is number 1. Steve Nash number 2. Quinn Snyder number 3. Now, we usually know how Coach of the Year works. It's usually a team that you did not expect to be good that has an improvement. Or a team that wasn't good last year and all of a sudden has a dramatic improvement. Like Billy Donovan, if you believed in the Bulls, would be a good choice. He's number 4 on this list at plus 1,000.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think
of two I really like. Ty Lue at plus 2,000. I really like that.
Oh yeah, Ty Lue. Oh, what a great narrative. That's already a good narrative. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Rick Carlisle plus 2,500. Both I really like. Rick comes in, steadies the ship, pushes the Pacers to the 5th seed. Like, wow, what a story. This franchise looked like they were going nowhere. Rick Carlisle comes back and has made them a relevant team again. You know, like those storylines write themselves. I mean, frankly.
Hopefully that's all. This is all of the coaches. I would be upset if they left one guy off or something.
Jamal Mosley with the worst odds with the Magic, which feels right.
Now, the other thing that I wanted to share that I didn't put on here is that you can bet specific outcomes for the finals. You can basically bet every specific outcome. Like if you think that the finals are going to result in the Oklahoma City Thunder beating the Indiana Pacers, you can bet on that. Plus $1 million, Andrew. You can bet $100 to win $1 million if you think the Thunder will beat the Pacers in the NBA Finals. But I was going to ask you right now, if you had to predict how this season ends up, tell me what your finals matchup would be. Tell me who would win, and I'll tell you what the odds are.
I think I'll go Nets Suns.
Nets Suns. Brooklyn Nets beating the Suns?
Yeah, Nets winning it all. Yeah.
Okay. Brooklyn Nets beating the Phoenix Suns plus 2,500. Now, obviously, the most likely scenario is the Nets beating the Lakers at plus 7,500.
Yeah.
The Lakers beating the Nets is also plus 750 for both of those. But yeah, you can bet any specific matchup you could dream up. If you want to bet the Orlando Magic beating the Thunder in the NBA Finals. Are you busy? Can I just keep going?
I've got to do something here in just a second, but we can do a couple more.
All right. I just wanted to show here. I'm going to try to share my screen for this one. Chrome tab. All right. Can you see that?
Yes.
So I just think these are fun ones because you can, if you have a strong opinion on one specific team making or not making the playoffs, these are really fun bets to make. So like if you just think one of these teams, like maybe you think a bad team is going to make a jump or you think a good team is going to fall out, I would more like to bet a no, like to find a good team. Like it might be fun to bet the Clippers to make the playoffs. Yes is minus 275 so that if they don't make it, you still win. It's a win-win bet.
That is a win-win bet. It's a nice hedge there.
Yeah. But I'm just scrolling through some of these. If any of them jump out, like if there's a team that
New Orleans is a really interesting one, right?
Yeah, so New Orleans is plus 175 to make the playoffs. It's more likely that they won't, minus 225. The Thunder are plus 2,000. If you want to bet that the Thunder won't make the playoffs, minus 10,000, which means you have to pay $10,000 to win 100. But it's a pretty easy way to make $100.
You can make $100 if you do that. You bet the other way. You might as well just take your $100 and throw it in the air and hope that it somehow multiplies itself while it's in the air. Like you have probably better odds that the dollar finds a way to multiply in the air.
We know that there's going to be some team, probably in the West, because the West is so strong, that we think. I'm just scrolling up and down. We think is going to make the playoffs, but there's just not enough room because this is to make the playoffs after the play-in tournament has concluded, which is a key distinction.
Yeah, that is key. But so I mean, like fringy teams from last year. Like, what are the Blazers at?
So the Blazers, you can bet them to make the playoffs, which is the least likely of the options, actually more likely of the options, minus 165. Yeah. No, plus 140.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Memphis. Yeah, so some of these teams, you gotta like really take a risk because like Memphis, it's going to be yes plus 115, no minus 140. Like it would almost need to be a team like Denver. Like if you think things are just going to fall apart in Denver, no, they're not going to make the playoffs. Plus 550. That's like at least you get some value there.
Yeah. What about Golden State? What about Golden State?
Golden State to miss the playoffs plus 450. Yeah, so something like that.
They missed last year. So
yeah, I mean, one of these teams. I mean, it happens every year. A team has a horrendous injury, and it derails everything. But yeah, those are fun. There's a lot of
those are fun.
It's starting to get me back in the mood. I'll be honest. I've been out of the mood when it comes to the NBA these last couple of weeks. Just haven't been thinking about it that much. But next week, we're going to start over-unders, which is good just because we get to talk about a lot of teams that we don't usually talk about.
Yep.
And there's teams I just haven't thought about yet. And it's always fun to come up with your, who you think is going to make the playoffs every year. As every year, it's very hard. And I would say it's very hard in both the East and the West this year.
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult. It'll be fun. All right, let's go to the stream before we go. We have Parker from Denver. Thank you. We have Twice God. We have Zodic Bars Gaming in Bethany. We have Hunter Seacrest from Springfield. We have Hoopstock 69. Drew Vickers is here. Daniel Tomasi is here saying, what's on? Tall Shot OKC is here. Michael Ashton is here. Christos from Greece is here. Tyler Carroll is here. What's up, Tyler? Felipe is here. Let's see. The Fluky from Germany is here. James Anderson. Michael McAfee says, Panther Pride, Al. Panther Pride.
Great day to be a Panther.
It is. Steve Barr. Mike McGee is here, so that he's nursing his girlfriend back to health after surgery. No better healer than my two faves. Hope she gets better soon, Mike. Dylan Walker. So-so. Penny is here. Josh Smith. Jalen G. Dylan Walker. Thanks, everybody, for joining. Hope you guys have a great Wednesday, great rest of your week, and we'll talk to you guys again on Friday.